Here we go, and I know you are fired up.
Today I'm ready to roll. It's a Monday. It's a wonderful Monday. It's May 10th, 2021. Welcome aboard. This is Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 476.
Yeah, it is.
Is it
you
really?
didn't even ask.
No, I didn't. I just nailed it.
Fire,
I felt internally confident, even though we didn't do our usual pre-podcast outline show, which really takes 35 seconds and is us discussing what episode we think we're on. But it is episode 476. We appreciate you tuning in. It is albeit cloudy and overcast, it is still a nice, solid temperature day here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We'll get rolling on the podcast in a minute, but we are excited and pumped to see many of you here in what's now less than 2 weeks at Chattanooga 70.3. The city is popping. We had a wonderful weekend here. And I'm going to tell you right now, I made this prediction this weekend, and we had a coaching workshop, and two of the
predictions. I like them.
Yeah. Two of the athletes, and I'm sure I'm going to get lamb blasted for this, which is fine. We'll be the first. My skin could use a little exfoliation, but some of the athletes that were here for a coaching workshop this weekend, we put one on, a coaching workshop for other coaches or aspiring coaches here Thursday through Sunday, and two of them are racing. And I said, I predict a low in the 50s.
Oh,
for race day. Now I'm holding strong on 59. But that's usually right in the wheelhouse. I think we're going to go up. Then we're thinking about. So I'm predicting a beautiful, stellar, prime temperature day for Chattanooga 70.3 here in about 10 or 11 days.
I don't know if that's a big prediction.
What do you mean that's a big prediction?
What, 59 degrees at 12:01 in the morning?
I mean, it's still 59 degrees.
I know.
I mean, just
hey, look, I just. It would be nice.
Last weekend was unreal. We had a
nice.
absolutely beautiful weekend here in Chattanooga.
I've been telling everybody though, it may be nice. It's always possible, but be ready for heat.
Yeah, be ready for heat.
You're not ready for.
Be ready for heat. And then what I also find interesting is that it's more than it's going to be insanely humid, and the most humid at like the swim start. Like you're going to think you're going to wonder why your heart rate's like jacked up high. Like I walked outside the house this morning and went for a run around 7 o'clock. And it was like the humidity was like 93%. And your first mile, like, oh, this feels pretty good. The temperature's nice. And after about a mile, you're like, yeah, I can feel it. Your heart rate goes sky high, and you're like, I can barely breathe. The dew point wasn't high, but whatever. It'll be a great weekend. We hope we get to see many of you. We'll be having events basically Thursday through Sunday. We put that out on our closed Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. Hop in there. If you're not a part of that because you're on the Facebook, or frankly you just don't want to be a part of it, which is also cool, you can always email us for those scheduled events. We'd love to meet you. You can email Mike or myself at Mike is at crushingiron@gmail.com. I'm at C26coach@gmail.com. We'll send you the scheduled events, but just come on by and see us. We're at 1603 Fagan Street. That's Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37408. Come by and say hi. It was a busy week this last weekend for us. We had a coaching workshop. We had a lot of athletes racing. You got another big race this weekend at Gulf Coast 70.3, which is one of my all-time favorite races. It's one that I did six years in a row. It was the first 70.3 I ever did. I did it about 2 years before it became Ironman events. So that's busy. It was an awesome weekend. But hey, quick intro if it's your first time tuning in.
Man, you rushed right in. Bam.
I did. I went way into the triathlon.
I just wanted to add one thing about the visit. If you're coming in and maybe you've been thinking about, getting a coach or something. I'm gonna set up a station in the corner with a bright light on my face, and you can come in and grill me if you want to talk about coaching.
Dude. Selfies first, right?
Selfie first, and then you can put me in the hot seat.
Yeah, Mike's number one criteria for if you're going to be compatible as a coach athlete is how well you do selfies and what's your take on appropriate lighting, right? That's like his number one question. Like, I wonder if we're going to see a good bit. Let's take a selfie. Let's see what kind of filter you use.
Man.
It does. It's how you see things. It's how you look at things.
Yeah,
we nailed that one. Like we said before, first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us an opportunity of your time. We know it's valuable. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. We cover it all. We cover swim, bike, run, specific training. We do race recaps, race previews, have on the occasional guest. But for the most part, Mike and I just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through personally as athletes and coaches. And just basically humans on this planet. We go through what our athletes are going through. Sometimes we'll hop into the previously mentioned Facebook group, which if you want to be a part of that is Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. A lot of awesome people in there. We'll quite often take the pulse from that community and use that to drive the topic of conversation. But it's really just a blend, triathlon and life, which is what it's supposed to be. A nice, healthy, positive as close as balanced blend as we possibly can, which, I think is a struggle for a lot of people to blend it all together and have it be harmonious and complementary. But that's the struggle. But that's also why it's fascinating. It's a complex sport. It has a lot of details. You got 3 sports. You got nutrition. You got rest. You got recovery. And then you have this thing called life, which gets in the way and basically drives the train. So we're just going to sit back, relax, and talk through that. We're both best friends, athletes, coaches, no experts, no professionals. We're just what? Experienced. Yeah. I keep saying we're wise and sage, and you tend to like back me in a corner on that one. But yeah, I consider us wise. Wise. And this doesn't mean perfect. This means, we have wisdom in certain areas. Doesn't mean we always apply it. Why old people don't always apply their own wisdom either.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I'm just saying.
The wisest people probably just don't say anything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Because you don't want to know that they're unwise. Like, there's like, you think they're wise. Like, these people think I'm a genius. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And they're like, see, he doesn't need to say anything. He's brilliant. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to keep not saying anything.
It's kind of like our pre-podcast meeting. We just look at each other and kind of gauge each other's body position.
I usually gauge on your outfit,
really
though.
My outfit, yeah.
Yeah, like today you got like a wrinkled T-shirt.
I'm kind of going young old here.
You are going, like, I don't really know what's going on right now. You got like a wrinkled.
Trying to find out who I am.
A wrinkled tee, with motorcycle stuff on it. You got, I'd say fairly trendy jeans, which I'm not the person who needs to be judging like if jeans are trendy or if jeans are trendy. It's got a hole in it, which I guess classifies. And then you're back to the fucking Hokas again. Like, I don't really understand what's going on. You got no socks, which is fine.
Well, but I started running yesterday in my Newtons again.
Oh,
so I'm like trying to wean back into the running shoes and off the Hokas a little bit. And I'm just playing it safe, man. I just put them on because they just felt like the thing to do today.
No flip-flops.
It's like, these are slippers.
They are your slippers. They are your endurance slippers.
Yeah.
Do you have any topics for today?
I got to run again today because I'm on my plan.
You're on your own plan. You got to run again today.
20 weeks to Chad. I'm on it.
20 weeks countdown. Mark it. Keep him accountable. If you're one of his athletes, please shoot him a text and ask him if he worked out today. And I always check in the morning and see if the endless pool room is a little bit wet or not. See if he got in the pool and splashed around. I saw him swim on Saturday. We did swim stroke instruction for our coaches and talked through that.
Hey, I swam yesterday and that helped.
Back to back, huh?
Yeah. I've been back to back a lot lately with that, but the swim instructor, because we had the coaches camp and I'm watching everybody kind of critique each other in the pool, and I'm like, wait, I got 4 really solid people here, solid coaches. I'm gonna take advantage of this, so I just jumped in and got some critique and some feedback and tried a couple of little tips, and I tried it yesterday, and it makes sense. It helped.
Well, good.
Slow me down.
It's like slow you. Sometimes that's the name of the game. Slow you down so you can speed up, or at least be faster.
Yeah,
that's your only topic for the day.
Well, I mean, I just have to also say it amazes me that every time we have a group like that come in, and just how, like, I mean, honestly, I just feel like so lucky to have this group and that kind of people in my life. Because the attitude and the positivity, and it's just like it really is a shot in the arm every time. Oh, here I go with that again.
I should have known you were getting emotional with the Hokas on today. I should have seen this one coming like this. The Hokas scream emotional.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, your life's coming to an end.
Stop. You're not getting that old. My God. Most people think we're brothers, which I think says more about the way I look than the way you look. But we had an awesome weekend. And no, I agree. It really is amazing. Like, the people that we have come into contact with and become friends with, and it really is. It's awesome. We're both very fortunate to be able to do what we do and be surrounded by such amazing and incredible people and be a part of this community and have the team of athletes that we have to work with. It's awesome stuff.
So come by for the race if you're close by. Like if you're a few hour drive, come on in and just even if you're not racing,
just come say hi.
Come see our hub and meet some people and just it'll be good for you.
So yesterday, I'll readily admit, as I have become slightly disinterested with most professional sports in the last few months, I have become a huge fan of Formula One racing.
Oh,
so we do these weekly Zoom calls, and we always kind of the last like 5 minutes, which I have
never saw this coming.
Yeah, which I know you haven't. Which I have come to find out the weekly Zoom calls are basically like everyone listens to the first, 55 minutes because they just want to get to the end, which is when we talk about Netflix. And so I was recommended that we watch this F1, this Formula One show, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna give it a whirl. So I've been like hooked on this F1 Formula One racing, like Netflix series, dude. It's behind the scenes. I find the racing fascinating just because how insanely expensive it is, like how much money they throw at these cars and how much they spend, and then like how many people you have basically like running a car from the sidelines. But anyway, I was fascinated for the most part just by how strategic it is, like how much like thinking goes into things. And so yesterday, this is going to tell you how in I am on F1 racing. I DVR'd it. So
race?
Yeah. So we had the coaching workshops on Sunday morning, which is yesterday, and I knew it was coming up, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to miss it. So I DVR'd the pre-show, which I think is like, I'm now officially a fan. And then I DVR'd the actual race. So when I got home from the coaching workshop, I threw on the pre-show, watched it, tried to learn a little more about, the racing in general, because you think but there's so many moving parts, it's unreal. Anyway, the point I'm trying to get to is that over the course of the race, there was the guy leading, Max Verstappen. He was basically leading Hamilton, and they made basically the team manager, I can't remember what you call him, but he basically said, I want you to pit. He pitted 2 times. He basically pitted with maybe 20 laps to go for one reason: brand new tires. And he ended up dropping back like 20 seconds. But he knew, and at least the guy who's the head of the team who makes all the calls, he basically the general manager, the manager from the sidelines, radioed and was like, we're going to pit again, because if we pit and we get these new tires at this point, I know it's going to seem like we're dropping back a ton, but by the last lap or two, you're going to have caught him. Right. So I thought that was fascinating, like the faith that you had, and just knowing the numbers that are going to matter to, like, we're going to make up this amount of time on this many laps, so where we're going to catch him. You're going to drop 20 seconds back, right, from the lead with like 20 something laps to go. So he pitted, he took it, and then you could hear Hamilton on the radio as they were broadcasting. He was like, I don't know. He's like, just calm down. We'll get there. We've done this before. And I think it was like at least 18, 20 laps to go, which, for them is like, 5 seconds, because they absolutely fly. And he ended up catching him at like mile 3 or 4. And you could tell with like 10 laps, 8 laps, 6 laps to go, the guy in the lead was like, he was so pissed and frustrated, because he was like, there was nothing I can do about it. I can't pit right now because it won't be enough time. Like, I'll lose enough time. But I thought it was fascinating, one, just from the confidence they had to make a decision that was going to forecast victory. Right? It was, we're going to play our game. We're going to make the smartest decision. We're going to make the best strategy, because it doesn't matter how far behind we are right now, right? It matters where we end up. And to me, it was all about, yes, it was about pacing as well, but it was all about strategy and where you ended up when. The most important part of the race, and this is where we kind of will bridge the gap to triathlon, it's like the most important part of the race is when you were going to feel the best, look the best, and be able to push the best, needs to be on the back half of the run. And I just thought it was very... it was just a great analogy on how people look at racing and the strategy that actually goes into long course racing, because you do end up making, or you should make, and that's, I think, the hard part of racing in long course, is that you have to make so many decisions and like almost like a split moment, and for athletes, you don't have a guy, you don't have a coach and you're being like, all right, back down the power, like, we're going to catch him. Like, it's not that intricate. It's not that detailed, but from your own internal pacing, it's like you have to play the end of the game, right? And so it comes like pacing yourself on the bike, and even coming out of the run, you have to have that confidence within yourself. You have to have that confidence within your training, and you have to have that confidence within your own fitness, and maybe the strategy that you laid out or your coach. I think it doesn't matter where I am now. It matters where I am when the race is over. And so he fell 20 seconds back, and all I could think of is I have to basically just catch him. The last one, he ended up catching him like 3 or 4 laps to go, and the guy was like, I can't do anything, because he couldn't pit stop. His tires were worn down. He was going slower. You just watched him cruise on by like it was nothing. And that's the feeling. If you've ever witnessed a race and you've gone and spectated, and especially if you're hanging out on the run course, it's on like loop 2 or loop 3 or whatever it is, it's the back half of any event, Olympics, 70.3, Ironman, you can see the faces, right, of the athletes who have totally burnt their biscuits, blown their load, they've been on the bike, or the first half of the run. These people go flying by them, and they even don't even blink, like, I know I can't keep up with you, or they try so hard to keep up with you or the other person and just frustratingly fall behind because they're like, I can't do it. And you watch someone run off into the distance, crushing you, taking your soul with them, and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. And it might not have anything to do with fitness or the fastest tires or the best car or the greatest fitness or the greatest, training block. It might just, which it often does, come down to long course racing, to pacing and decision making. And it was just I was texting back and forth with one of our other coaches, Phil Jones, who's a big F1 guy. And he was like, it was just like a master class in like confidence and strategy and like playing it. And it was like, but they actually said before the race, because the two competing teams were Mercedes and Red Bull, and they were like, we can't keep, because Red Bull has like,
who are you?
I know, right? Who am I right now? Because Red Bull is like bridging the gap to being like one of the best teams. Like, we can't continue to bet on them making mistakes. Right, we have to do it ourselves. But yet again, they made the mistake. He made the precision, and they ended up winning the day again. So I thought there was a lot of things to unpack there, and a lot of analogies you could use to long course racing. Besides the fact that I'm a new F1 fanboy.
Mm-hmm. So
how shocked are you right now?
I'm actually excited, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I like when we go off the rails a little bit, and do these kind of things, and I like the fact that you found something you enjoy now.
I enjoy a lot of things.
No, I know you do. But look, okay, I'm not going to hold you to the exact lap, but let's say that 20 laps to go. How many laps are in the
66?
66. So it was 2/3 of the way through the race. So equivalent of mile 18, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of because I've often thought about it, because sometimes when I'm out on a long run and I run into a friend or something, I stop and talk for a few minutes. And it's weird in a rejuvenating sense. Like, sometimes I can just sit there and sip and not run and kind of shake my legs out a little bit. And then when I start again, I feel really good, even on a longer run. So, I mean, not that I'm suggesting you stop at an aid station for 2 minutes or whatever, but
don't do that.
I wouldn't do that. But, I've often thought about maybe a minute here could really do something for me in the long run. Or at least a chill walk or whatever you want to talk about, like just something to change up the pattern, especially, and this is what I always think about with Louisville. We always talked about the old Louisville course, how flat it was. That used to eat my lunch, because you never really moved your legs any differently the whole day. It was just like chunk, 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 chunk.
Mm-hmm.
The same.
You go under that one bridge or overpass, and you're like, that was it.
I was like, man, that felt really good. The hill, I like that little hill. But seriously, it's like it's about maybe giving your legs a little bit of a break, or changing up the stride, or doing something like that, and how much that might pay off. I like that strategy, but man, that's got to take a lot of balls to change
confidence and knowledge and thinking. This is the best.
Knowledge and confidence.
That's it. It's like, that's what it comes down to. And again, because that's why long course racing is so hard, because there's so many decisions you have to make, but it's also it's so much trust, right? And so much faith to do the training, to do things. But then it's like, okay, I can fall back on what I know, and I can look at the beginning of the race and think how well I was doing, how well I felt. And it really is, even if it's not coming down to you chipping away at time and catching people in front of you, right? Because again, that's one of the hardest things I think people have to wrap their brain around is giving up 4 minutes on the bike to gain 10 on the run, right? That is something that triathletes and people, humans, we don't like to think about giving something up for the gain on the back. And we always think about, what can I get right now? It's Amazon. Well, I'm going to overpay, but I can get it tomorrow. Give it to me, right? So, or I can wait 2 weeks and have it for cheaper. No, I want it right now. I'll pay extra, right? Or I'll pay overnight shipping. Just give it to me right now. Give it to me right now. I want it right now. And that is the mentality that so many people have when they go to race. It's like, but I want this. And it's either the ego, or they get caught up in other people's racing, right? Like, they're trying to compete at the highest level. They see somebody pass them, like, I gotta go with them. Do you? Right? Because then you're racing to their strategy. Maybe they're just a better cyclist, or maybe they're going to absolutely blow up on the run. So what happened now? Now you're going to blow up on the run just because you just chose to follow them. And so you have to race in a sea of athletes, but think independently. And I think that's something that's very, very, very hard for athletes, again, to wrap their brain around, is to race your own plan, execute your best ability in your race day, right? Because you also can't control who shows up, right? And I think there's so many things that make triathlon fascinating, but also can be so frustrating and so unpredictable. And it's the amount of people, it's the course, it's how you feel, it's your strategy, it's your pacing, it's how well you're adapting, it's your nutrition, it's everything. And that's just people win races by running their way onto the podium. They rarely ever, if ever, you ever watch someone hold off the bike and they just, are not run down. It's you getting run down. That's what happens. Or they at least bike well enough to at least hold off on their boat. For the most part, you get run down. Like, that's why I think you've seen like one or two athletes win it off the bike at Kona, right? It's because it's not about the run. Norman Stadler did it one time, and I think another athlete did it as well. But it's about, it's so much about the run, which comes down to proper pacing, And so I think that's one of those things that takes practice, but also takes just an enormous amount of confidence for you to run your race. But on the flip side, I think the thing that we get from it mostly is the confidence you then get from passing someone on the run versus getting passed on the bike. Mm-hmm. And passing someone on the bike is fun, but like it's just kind of a blur, and you pass a lot of people at the run. When you pass somebody on the run, that's the last move. That's the last event that's going to happen between you and this other person. It's done. Passing on the run is almost always final. It is rarely ever I'm going to get recaught, right? Someone's going to pass me, then I'm going to go back and forth. And I think that's
especially on the back half.
Especially on the back half. Like last 3 to 4 miles of anything, you pass someone, it's over. It's done.
Yeah. That takes so much focus. I think that I was thinking about like, if it's your first race and how much different that feels than if it's your 10th race or something, because you kind of understand it. It's sort of like thinking about a big race, your biggest race that you've ever done, as your Super Bowl. And I think about teams that get to the Super Bowl and they're young and they're excited, and everywhere they look there's a distraction, and you just can't buy into that, right? You have to be kind of able to put on the blinders for the whole week or 2 weeks before the game. And the same goes sort of at Ironman. It's like, I don't mean you need to be like completely internal and just free, but you can't get super distracted by, getting caught up in all the, we talk about like all the stuff that people talk about before a race about, it's like, I don't know. I changed my, shoes last week or whatever, and then start thinking about crap like that or whatever. It's just a matter of staying in the pocket, especially on the run, and you have to sort of like kind of go to a deeper, darker place and just understand that, you've got to go forward, and you can't be like thinking about, like you said, people that are around you or whatever the case may be, because you can kind of see it on their face. But as you go through that second half of that run, you really have to go deeper and deeper into your like game plan and just stick with it and have confidence in it, because the minute you start like sort of losing focus and everything like that, the next thing you know, you're kind of hanging out and whatever.
The amount of focus athletes put on other people is mind-boggling to me. It is like I had multiple conversations just in the last 12 hours with athletes racing Chattanooga 70.3 and an athlete racing Ironman Tulsa. And it was like, all I'm hearing is this, all I'm reading is this, the bike horse is going to eat people's lunch, the wind's going to be 30 miles an hour, it's going to destroy, me, and like, I don't weigh enough, that's going to crush me, because Tulsa's a rolling to hilly course, and it could be windy. We have no idea what the weather's going to be like on race day, right?
Right.
And you know how triathlete message boards are, it's all, but people who portray and promote fear on that stuff, they're just scared. They want you to join the pity party and the scare train. Like, just hop off and go somewhere else and take a flight. But what I responded was like, well, like let me give my exact email exchange, okay? Because it was this is what I'm hearing. And it was like a quote from a Facebook group, this is this, this is this, this is this. But here's what people are saying, and I was like, okay, first off, number one, people say the election was stolen. People say that COVID's a hoax. People say we haven't landed on the moon. And most importantly, people say that Tupac is not dead, which actually would be pretty cool. And
I'm in on that.
Do you believe any of them? No, you just do what your own do. So what you're hearing is you're getting riled up over someone else. What you haven't thought of is, yes, you might weigh 100 pounds, but you know what's great for 100-pound cyclists that are strong? Hills. Like you're looking at what could go wrong instead of looking like, oh, this is a strength. Like I'm in great cycling shape at 100 pounds, as a female. She's an older athlete. And I'm like, what do you, where is your brain at right now? Why are you getting swept up in what everyone else is saying? their fears are their fears, but athletes do this all the time. When what they should be doing, like you said, is only focusing on, you know what's going to happen during race day? It's going to hurt bad. At some point, I'm going to have to dig deep. That's all you need to worry about. That's all you need to worry about is you digging deep, and when you need to dig deep, how it's going to feel, how you're going to react, how you're going to be able to go there, and then how you're going to be able to stay there. And I think that is, and then you have athletes that, that are racing and they're like looking at their competition, and you think you see people on a participant list, and here's another thing is like, you don't even know if they're participating. They might even show up, and you spend a week looking at, John Smith coming from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he's like, God, he's going to be in the biggest competition while he's off doing training for some of the race. He's like, I know some of the participant list because I haven't, deferred. I'm just on there. You spend a whole week worrying about John Smith, and guess what John Smith does? Doesn't even show up for race day. You're looking around, you know what?
Smith,
Seriously,
John,
he's not. He's in Albuquerque doing his thing. He's like, I couldn't make it the trip and doing whatever. And like, but here you are, 5 states over worrying about, no, he's not thinking about you. Like, and that's like one of the things, but it's fascinating, like how much
I know.
How much we put on, other people. It's like what they say about resentment. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's like that's how our mind shifts when racing gets close, and it's like it's self-sabotage, it's defense mechanism, it's all those things. But all you got to do is worry about yourself.
Yeah. I think you talk about. I don't mind when it's mucked up, like the race, like that to me, like we talked about, like I feel like, okay, I see it's going to be like at Louisville a few years ago when we had a huge group of people there, and it was a super cold morning, and everybody was freaking out about the rain and the cold and the wind and everything like that. And it was like, what are you going to do? All you do is you can think about it from a strategic perspective. And you had that big talk with all our athletes, and it was like, just dress warm. Like you're going to be, so you don't get cold. And and you saw hundreds of people just quit on the bike because it was so cold, but none of our people did. Everybody was dressed right for it. I was dressed a little warm. That was my only beef about myself. It was like, was I a little, but then again, it was like, in and out. It was like hot.
What would you rather be? Hot or cold?
You'd rather be warm for sure. But I like that because that just sort of, like, it can be a huge advantage if you mentally can wrap your head around it, because people are checking out. They don't even want to race. And if you're like, hey, I can't wait to get into that cold water or into that cold wind and, battle it. And I just find that stuff fun. And then because it can be such a grinder. And I think I've, every time I've talked about this, but like to do a race that's just awful like that really sets the tone for later, man. If you can do it and you've done it, then you can mentally put yourself in a place where you're not going to get intimidated, and you're just going to do what it takes to get through it. And you're going to be able to be like, oh, it's not perfect conditions and I'm not racing my best, but other people are falling off like flies. That's the hard part, right? Is like everyone has the perfect day performance in their head. And when it's not the perfect day, then all that stuff goes out the window. Yeah. And then you have to understand that everyone's going through the same thing. And if you can tough it out more than they can, your shitty day time is going to be better than their shitty day time, even if they have a faster, perfect day time. You know what I'm saying?
It's like and this is always how we've coached, and like what I love most about the athletes that we work with, and one of the things we try to get across a lot is that, in my opinion, we would always prefer to play chess than checkers. We want the more moves, the more complex, the more thinking, the more decision making, the better off we are. Yes, we're fit. Yes, we're going to have a good time. Yes, we're going to be prepared. But a lot of athletes walk into race day and frankly walk into training thinking, if I have to get 2 + 2 for it to equal 4 today, I have to. It has to go seamlessly. It has to go perfectly. It has to be easy. I need 2 + 2 to equal 4 today. For me, when we look at races, and for myself personally, I know for you, just like you said, and for our athletes, I don't want a 2 + 2 = 4 day, right? Not for me, not for us, because it makes, I only have to think about 2 things, 2 + 2, and I know what I'm going to get. I need 1 + 5, -1 + 2, -4. I'm not going to make it. I'm just going off but I need something like really, really complex to get to the answer. I need multiple moves. I want multiple, because the more decisions that have to be made, guess what raises the opportunity? Mistakes. The more decisions you have to make, like I said, all right, I need you to make 3 decisions today. I can probably nail those 3, right? But if I said, we're going to have 30, you have to make 30 decisions today on race day, I'm going to screw at least 4 or 5 of those up, because you get lazy in decision making. You can't put your ego in check. You can't troubleshoot. You get discouraged. Like, I'm just tired of making decisions, so I'm just going to do this. Like, the more decisions, the better. And if you're an athlete like that, because guess what? If you can answer the most complex problem, if you can play chess, guess what you can also play? You can also play checkers. But a lot of athletes are only wired and only prepare and only mentally, get dialed in to play checkers. Prepare to play chess. And if you get checkers, then good on you, right? Like, if you, prepare to be Bobby Fischer, not, your 6-year-old cousin at Thanksgiving who wants to beat you in checkers outside of Cracker Barrel. Like, that's not what you want to be, but if you get it, golden. Like, you do less thinking, perfect day, I'll take it. But like you said, are you going to have the perfect day? The chances are, no matter how well you've prepared, the chances are probably not. Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to be imperfect, right? Whether it's going to be, you get caught behind, a car on the bike course, you drop your water bottle, it takes you longer to get your wetsuit. Like, something is going to immediately start barking in your psyche of, that didn't go as planned. Yeah. So now I'm behind, right? Yeah. I planned on transition only taking 3 minutes, and that was the longest transition ever. So by tri-calc, like, I only allowed for 3.5 minutes for transition. That took me 6. And now I'm 3 minutes behind. Where am I going to get the 3 minutes back? I'm going to have to perfectly nail this bike, this bike split. And then you end up like having a sore bike because it's hot and humid. Then like all of a sudden you're 5 minutes behind. So you come out of the gate in the run, you are flying. And you're like, I got these minutes back to only give up 30 because you walked the last 4 miles because you're burnt, right? It's so much thinking that goes into it, but that's why it's so awesome is that your decision-making can trump, like you said, from a fitness standpoint, somebody who's much better off and much fitter. If they make poor decisions, then they don't get to work with the whole bag of tricks they brought, right? They only get to work with a couple because they wasted them. If you can maximize the amount of tools, the amount of fitness tools you brought to race day, then you're going to be better off building the best race you can possibly build.
Yeah, I always like that analogy you used, that NFL cornerbacks. It's like if you got 30 decisions to make and you make like your 3 bad ones out of the gate, and can you forget it? Can you let it go? Because if they start affecting your next decision, you're just going to like snowball down a road of terrible decisions. And, it's the craziest little things that can, completely disrupt your cart for the whole race. Whether it's pounding up a hill too hard and getting your legs behind the 8 ball and, just throwing that out of whack. And then you spend the next 20 minutes trying to get that back and whatever, you go back and forth. But it is a game of like, sometimes that does happen. So how do you readjust and find, something that you're comfortable with and be more in the pocket as you're going on? Because if you blow something early, even in the swim or the bike, and, there's ways to come back, for the most part, but you have to think about it. And it just really does come down to like, the simple key to making those decisions is what you talk about all the time is, how is this decision going to affect the back half of my run? And I mean, if you want like a key and a guide to like help you make all your decisions, just think about that.
The hardest part of that, though, is most people won't ever give themselves the opportunity to race like that because they're afraid, because every race is held in such a high level of importance. And I think that's why it's so great to race a lot, right? And to race small races, long races, race as much as you can, to the appropriate extent, to get that practice, to have those days where you're like, I mean, we tell athletes this, I'm like, you know what? Try to blow up on the bike. Just try to blow up on the bike and then see what you have in the run. Just give it a shot. Or I want you to pace yourself super conservatively, and then I want you to try and run your best, open 10K, right, in Olympic, and see what happens. Like, but you have to have that confidence to pace it right and be like, I gotta wait. Not yet. And then you pull it at the right time. But you have to practice that. But I think racing like that too is so important, is figuring those things out, because some athletes do, or they're wired better to execute better races. Like, and you can find out how far can we push the bike and still be able to run well, right? So how much are we gaining versus how much we're losing on the run? Or, on the other side, how many minutes or seconds are we going to lose on the bike to gain 4 or 5 on the run, and that's a game you have to be willing to play if you want to really find out the best strategy and the best way for you. And then everything is different and every course is different, but that. So you have to figure that out. You have to figure that out with your training. You have to figure it out on race day. So you have to be able to experiment. And let's be honest, most people are terrified to experiment because they put so much stock in an expectation or race, posted race results or social media. It's like, but people aren't going to know the whole story. Then I'm going to have to go through this whole big, 19 paragraph Facebook post that explains why I did the things I did today. And it's like, if you want to be the best, then you got to figure out the best for you. And then that might not be the best for everybody else, but for the most part, you have a plan, you stick with what works. And the shorter races, it might not mean as much. You experiment and you figure it out.
Yeah. You say experiment, I like to think of that as taking chances in training, because exposing yourself to things that could happen, build that confidence as to how you could handle it in a race. Example, you're out training and you're on a long ride or whatever, purposely stick in the wrong climb gear or something, things like that I always like to, that sort of is the one of my cycling training is playing around with gears and the wrong gears and getting caught in, too high of a cadence and kind of sticking with that and then coming out of it. And, just because some things happen on race day that you want to try to expose it. And I love to climb in gears that aren't appropriate sometimes just to, because things happen. I mean, with the gearing and shifting and everything like that, sometimes you get stuck in the wrong thing and it's like, what now? Well, if you've been through it a bunch of times, you can handle it and how to handle it under control, because the minute you get stuck in a wrong gear or something going up a hill, there's always like a little bit of panic. But if you can just chill and like pull it together and just kind of power through it without going too hard over it, you know what I mean? Like there's ways to do that kind of stuff. And you can, conservative training is good, but you always talk about just try to blow up every once in a while, or at least push the envelope or see where those limits are, and just feel it, because you may subconsciously do it in a race and all of a sudden go, I'm way out. Oh, my race is over, but it's not,
Nope.
If you can, it's all about all right, let's get back under control and then just settle in again and then go back up a little bit more under control.
Can you rally? Right. It's a really, I even have some workouts that I'll put in sometimes that are, called nothing to lose or early efforts, because you won't always pace it well, but you have to be able to. And we do this a lot in swimming, obviously, because this is what people do when they start races. They go out of the gate in zone 3 or zone 4 of the first 500 meters, and they just can't calm themselves down. Like they just fly. So we practice that, right? Because you're going to do it anyway, probably.
Right.
And I think it's a good skill, to learn. And why not do it in the pool in a protected environment? Get the feeling of like, sometimes we'll do like 150 sprint and then sink in. Like I think one of a really solid race prep session that I do for 70.3 athletes is like 200 all out. They're like a set of 400s, 200 all out, 200 settle in. We do that like 4 or 5 times, because that's what you're going to do. You're going to go all out more than likely. Even if you're not going out, you're going to have been in your wetsuit for 10 minutes. You're going to be hyped up because it's racy. Your heart's going to be elevated. You're going to feel like, or the open water anxiety is going to get to you. The water's going to be colder, whatever it is. The RPE in your heart rate's going to be higher, and you're going to have that feeling of panic or anxiety or being in a hurry. So it's like, let's practice that. So you do it for 200 all out in the pool. Then it's like, all right, now find your sweet spot. Now cruise it in. Gather yourself while continuously moving and gaining that confidence. Like you can do the same thing on the bike, and giving efforts that are in the middle of the end of a workout. It's like you have to be able to troubleshoot, and you have to wrap your brain around what's it going to take for me to rally, right? Because rallying means it's not over, right? You see this in professional sports all the time. Like we make that analogy because it's easy to watch. They put them on TV all the time. It's like you can see when teams just kind of cave, right? You can see the difference in when teams have the mentality of like we're not done yet. We're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then they end up coming back because the other people have, basically, I got this under control. I'm good to go. Then all of a sudden you're fighting against this raging, team that's clicking on all cylinders. And then you get your doors blown off, right? You end up winning by 10 points, something like that. Like that's the way racing is too. You can lose it. You can have a bad day on the bike or the first 30 miles on the bike. But guess what? Doesn't mean your whole day is going like that. And then hopefully, and you should always do this before race day. And that's the thing is everyone likes to go back and and look at their best workouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, but I think this is what I'm capable of, right? Mm-hmm. You're giving yourself, you're capable of 2 + 2 day. What I find the most helpful as an athlete myself is to go back and look through some of the mundane, right? The typical long rides and long runs where I read through my comment and all I see is really didn't feel like doing it today. Really didn't feel like my legs are going to be there. Was pleasantly surprised, Could be your feeling on race day. You just don't have it. You're not motivated. You're scared, whatever it might be. Or, man, the first 30 minutes, my legs felt like trash, and I was really dreading finishing. I almost turned back around. And then I ended up feeling amazing and had one of the best runs I've ever had. Those are the things you need to read before race day, because more than likely, that's how your race is going to feel, right? At some point, you're going to have a feeling, a thought, a level of fatigue that doesn't feel what you predicted. Like, that's not ideal. And your response is going to be, here it goes. Here goes my day. You're going to have that you're going to start throwing your pity party at mile 20 of the bike. There it goes. And like, no, you just decided it just went based on how you felt for a minute or even 10 minutes, because more than likely it's probably going to go away, because you know what? It goes away in training all the time. You just have to be able to deal with it, rally, and then make the best decision. Or you could have a game plan and think, all right, my goal for today is going to hold 200 watts. And for the first 30 miles, 200 watts feels like 300. What do you need to do? Hold 200? No. You need to drop down to like 180. Let your legs come around. See what you really have. Give your body an opportunity to figure itself out. And then maybe not only you can push 200, maybe you'll be able to push 230 because you gave yourself an opportunity. So race day is so much about making decisions that give yourself an opportunity to make other decisions. Because once you've made one bad decision, you don't have any more opportunities to make decisions anymore, because because you're not going to have the fitness and be moving at a speed or being at a point in the course that you wanted to be at a certain amount of time to where I got to make a decision now. You've already made that one crucial, decision that led to the one crucial mistake. Then now your day is over.
Mm. Yeah. It's like going out on a run and knowing you overdressed like within the first half mile, but then pushing it harder because you're mad at yourself instead of just backing down and letting your body kind of get its cooling system in place. I like that kind of stuff when I make those mistakes when I'm out running, because it's like, man, I'm way too hot right now. So how do I handle it? It's sort of like to get that feeling that you're going to get on race day, because it's so hard to emulate that. We talk about, nobody really does the distance on one day, and sometimes over 3 days or whatever, but it's unbelievable, really. Like, I'm sure that veterans that have been doing it a long time that really understand how it's going to feel don't hurt as bad, but it's all relative, because they're going to push it. Everybody's on race day is going to get feelings that are going to seem really unique and unsolvable, but they're not. And you just have to figure out, I think, in training, just to embrace those moments when training is going bad and just use them as that puzzle solver. I think that's just such a huge deal. It's like, man, every train, man, I felt terrible today. It sucked. I'm giving up. No, lean into that.
The best analogy I could give, and just like this is on the top of my mind, is why it's so beneficial to work with such a wide variety of people, right? When you coach, I talked about this a lot over the weekend, and when you get into when you had athletes in, and we got them into the swim and in the endless pool, and we were picking apart swim strokes, and it was like, the more people you see, right, and the more strokes you see, the more opportunities you have to, as a coach, watching, is like, think through how we can fix this. I've seen hundreds, if not over 1,000 strokes in my life. And I have that kind of, book to go back on and think, all right, I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen that. Now, the trick is, though, there's not always one fix-it, right, for everybody, because the fix-it could be different. But I know that in the past, this didn't work. So let's work our way down and see if we can fix it via this. And even sometimes you're like, all right, that's not going to work, because you can't your mind can't grasp what I'm trying to tell you. So if your mind can't grasp it, then you need to figure out something else, right? But so but that's the same thing, like going through obstacles and having bad training days, like you learn how to rally, you learn how to troubleshoot on the fly, which is the same thing, that kind of same thing is like when you're coaching, you see somebody, you're like, all right, I've seen this, but if you've only seen one person do one stroke, it's going to be kind of hard, right? To be like, oh, I've never seen this before. I don't really know what to do. Or let me just tell you how I do it, and cause that's just how I do it, which is a lot of what coaching is. Like, let me tell you how I do it and why it works for me. So you need to kind of pick it up and get it. So the more things you see, the more opportunities you allow yourself, which is also why you shouldn't always just leave the house if you feel 100%, right? Because you have to be, because you might not, I know it's hard to hear, but like you might wake up on race day and not feel 100%. You might feel, I didn't sleep well last night, right? This is going to be the longest day. You don't know that, right? You probably go back in training and look at a lot of days where you didn't sleep well and had a awesome workout, right? We just make these assumptions. So the more you can do, the more you can expose yourself to every kind of situation, no matter what, which is why you shouldn't always avoid, adverse conditions or situations and always look for everything has to be perfect. I have to have my 2+2. They have to have my checkers today. Don't look for just play someone that's harder than you, right? Like learn, experience things, because it's all going to come down to a bigger bag of tricks and a bigger tool bag on race day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what's her girl's name? Amelia
You lost me.
Yeah. She's great.
She's great. You really nailed that one. Yeah.
A Spartan race or whatever.
Yeah. I can't wait for her.
Amelia Boone, maybe?
Yeah. I think that's Amelia Boone. Yeah.
Yeah, she always used to say, like, she would look at her next day's weather forecast and try to pick the worst time of the day to go run or work out. And I mean, that's, kind of an extreme thing, but there's something to it, It's like, like you said, you can't always feel 100%. And normally, most of us seem to not like sleep that great before a race or whatever. And you can't, you're going to have that groggy feeling or like, damn it, whatever. To me, that's when it's most important to really, really ease into things, because you got to let your body kind of come around. And I think we're all surprised. I mean, I am every time I do an Ironman and I sleep like 2 or 3 hours before it. I'm like, man, I didn't sleep. And you just get in that water and kind of let yourself kind of come into yourself, and instead of forcing it too much, because it's amazing how, I mean, that's a super long day, and to try and feel like, $1 million within the first 20 minutes is usually, pushing the challenge a little bit too fast.
You're forcing a square peg through a round hole. Possibly it might look like it's going to fit, and you might get the first couple edges in on the right side. You're like, I think I can make this work, and then you broke it. Right? It's like it's not always, again, it's not always about how things start. It's always about how it ends up. And the more you can troubleshoot in training, the more you can prepare yourself mentally. And again, that is the biggest thing. Like we have a ton of athletes. Obviously, you got Gulf Coast this weekend. You got Chattanooga 70.3. You got Ironman Tulsa. You got just a lot of races coming up. Like that's what you should be mentally focusing on. Not just, I wonder, for every second you check the forecast, or for every second you analyze, on best bike split or tri-calc, what your race is going to be and where you're going to fall in your age group. You should spend ×5, right? Those seconds and minutes on troubleshooting what am I going to do if X, Y, and Z happens. If I lose my goggles, in the first start of the race, if I can't get my wetsuit off quickly, and if I can't, I need to practice it right now. If I get a flat, if I lose a bottle, how am I going to nail my nutrition? And, where do I need to have my setup to be? How am I going to pace for the first start of the run? Am I look at my watch? If it's hot, how am I going to adjust how that's going to feel? If it's windy, how am I going to adjust how I'm going to feel? How I'm going to pace things? Like we all look at the things that can make things the most ideal instead of troubleshooting and thinking through how am I going to react when things don't go the way that I had planned.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good advice.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Let's wrap it up. I think that's enough for today. It's a Monday.
I know I always watch that weather, and I'm anticipating it being bad. And then when it's really good, I'm kind of like, man, bummer. I do like it. I like sunny days for races.
Like sunny days?
Because mainly for me, it's about the spectators. I don't want them to be cowered in their hotel rooms, but they usually suck it up too and come out in the rain.
And the spectators, listen, I've seen some astonishingly awesome spectatorship, in adverse
amazing
conditions.
Yeah,
Louisville,
they're making the best of the day, man, and that's kind of what we have to do, right? If they figure it out, and it's about us to, figure it out too.
I'm gonna check the forecast here for Chattanooga?
Oh, it's gonna be hot.
You think so?
I think it's
calling for a cold front, baby.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, it's not looking that way, but still, it'll be awesome. You guys
never
will
know.
Enjoy yourself.
But I'm just saying, like you're saying, prepare mentally for it to be hot.
Yeah, prepare for it all. Prepare for chess, and if you get checkers, you're welcome.
Yep.
You're welcome. And we thank you, and we hope you're welcome for today's podcast. Brought to you by Monday.
Come on in and check out our condo.
Come see us. If you haven't been, go to our website, C26Triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community, as well as our club membership. It's on the coaching tab. You can see our roster of coaches. You can check out the hub. You can check out the hub condo package we have going on that is becoming very popular. We have people inquiring about it all the time, and it looks like May and June are almost already booked up. We got camps coming. If you have any questions about the hub, the condo, or any camps, always email c26operations@gmail.com. If you have any questions for Mike specifically about coaching or really anything, you can email him at crushingiron@gmail.com. Or if you have any questions for me specifically, you can always find me at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, Coach.
That's all I have for today.
That's it?
That's it. I'm done.
Am I going to be looking over and seeing you looking up Formula One stats? And,
no.
I'm like, excuse me.
Maybe later. Maybe my lunch break. I'm not drinking Red Bull, and you'll never see me in a flat bill hat. Oh my God, get out of here. Team Ralph Lauren. No, you're not going to find me that drunk.
If you start walking in polos with like
sweater vest, like I'll have a Ferrari jacket, like those fancy watches, you're like, dude, you're gone. Like you've jumped the ship.
If you do that, I'm going to get into like yacht sailing, racing. America's Cup type stuff.
You're going to be into that. Like, I got to watch these guys sailing.
Skipper, khakis, and the boat shoes.
I can't handle it.
Come on, man. I mean, we all got to have our thing. We all have our love.
Yeah, that's not my love. I find the
Formula
sport
One,
aspect interesting, right? And the strategy and all the details and how the precision that goes into it. But to be frankly, a whole lot of them are also like gigantic crybaby douchebags. Like, I'll be honest about them. Like, the amount of complaining you hear is really unreal.
It's like soccer on a racetrack.
That's worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's worse?
It really is. It's not a bunch. It's a lot of
prima donnas.
Prima donna ship, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we could sponsor a local. Do they have it locally?
We couldn't sponsor the local golf cart. Yeah, we couldn't sponsor anybody. Nobody wants us. But we hope we want you.
Cart,
we hope you come back. We'll see you on Thursday. Have a great rest of the week.
Country clubs listening, we want to sponsor a golf cart out there.
Actually, we'll sponsor the beverage cart. That's probably how we can afford it.
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right, bud. See you, dude. See you.